Let's talk about how the media is turning us into monsters. I will be using the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as an example. I will share with you how Western media versus Arab media report the same event but very differently, and why. Let's look at how Western media versus the Arab media use language to convey a certain message and mislead their audiences sometimes. For example, when an Israeli kills a Palestinian, the Muslim media would say a Zionist settler killed a Palestinian martyr. And when a Palestinian kills an Israeli, the Muslim media would say the resistance or freedom fighter or a hero killed the Israeli enemy. And most of the time, they would ignore the civilians and the innocent citizens who got nothing to do with the conflict when they get murdered. Western media, on the other hand, does the same thing, but the other way around. Since Western media generally is biased towards Israel, and its audience is very detached and far away from the conflict, they don't know much about what is going on. For example, when a Palestinian kills an Israeli, Western media would say a terrorist attacked an Israeli and killed innocent people. And when an Israeli kills a Palestinian, Western media would say an Israeli defended itself against terrorist attacks. And normally they would ignore the hundreds of innocent lives that were murdered that got nothing to do with the conflict. And so by framing the same event differently using specific language and showing only half of the image, half of the story, Muslims assume that all the ones that died in Israel are part of the army. And those in the West assume that those who died in Palestine are parts of Hamas and they are terrorists. Not to be underestimated, language has a profound impact on our perception. Take for example the word conflict or war. When we hear this word, we normally assume it's a fair fight. But in the context of Palestine and Israel, it's not fair. That's why in Arabic they never use conflict or war, but they always use occupation, ihtilal. Second medium of manipulation, visuals. Growing up in an Arab Muslim majority country, I remember the news about the conflict, how Palestinian kids were murdered in cold blood, and how the Israeli army mercilessly and brutally beat civilians on their way to a mosque, a market, or even sometimes on their way home. They would also show the Palestinians fight back with slingshots and rocks against the oppressor with guns, but never back down. And that's why they are a symbol of bravery for most Muslims. And most importantly, they would show the dead and the injured of the Palestinians and show the reactions of their loved ones mourning their death and listen to their stories and how that made them feel. But they would never do the same for the dead and the injured of Israel. Because if they go ask an Israeli family how they feel about losing their 12-year-old daughter to Hamas, we would be shocked. Freedom fighters kill kids sometimes? We did not know about that. We would also sympathize with the Israeli family. And maybe such feelings and reactions doesn't fit the media's narrative, agenda, or interests. How does that affect the perception of those who consume such news? Well, people from this part of the world think that all Israelis are people with guns and that they want to kill Palestinians. Therefore, when they hear that, let's say 85 Israelis were killed, they imagine all of them were army personnel. Therefore, they don't sympathize with them because they feel they deserve it because these are the people who always kill innocent Palestinians. And I think this is a serious problem. Western media, on the other side, use the same tactics. First, they bring out their cameras and microphones only when Palestine attacks. But when Palestine is being under constant attack throughout the whole year, they never talk about that. They never report that. And people who consume only this one-sided news, they think that Palestinians are troublemakers because they keep disturbing peace. But Palestinians did not enjoy peace for the last 70 years. And we know that because we always consume reports from local media, and we know that Palestinians on a daily experience harassment and abuses and segregation and all the other horrible things that come with it. And we also know that hundreds of Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, are murdered yearly. But Western media does not report that, because during these times when Palestinians are not fighting back, there is nothing that worth reporting. When one child gets killed in Israel by Hamas, Western media would ask their family, friends about how does that make them feel. But they would never do the same with hundreds of kids who were killed yearly in Palestine. Because if they show you the footage of a baby's skull crushed under the ruins of collapsed buildings from the Israeli airstrikes, you would be shocked. You would ask yourself, how could you support such criminals who kill hundreds of kids each year? And so, because our media show us only one side of the story, and since most people are media illiterate, we pick sides easily and eat up all the lies they fabricate and exaggerate. And we don't consider the people from the other side of the fence as human beings just like the rest of us, who deserve peace, freedom, and decent living conditions. In conclusion, the media is turning us into monsters with each conflict and each war, as our sympathy is declining, as our humanity is fading away. And we keep forgetting that the only one who actually wins in a war is whoever owns the means of destruction, whoever is selling those weapons. And those who lose are civilians from both sides, including us, who instead of losing life, we are losing our humanity, which might be worse than death. So I urge you to remember that children don't have ideologies, they don't have religions, and they don't have political affiliations. And for that, let's agree that whoever kills children is a criminal, regardless of whose children are they. Thank you for your time. And remember, peace above all.